You're listening to All Things 3D, where we talk about the world of fabricating, designing, and capturing in the third dimension.
All right. Hey, everybody. It's All Things 3D. I'm Chris. I'm here with Mike.
I'm Mike.
And today we have a guest, Amir from Sixense. Is that right?
That's right. My name, Amir Rubin. Let's make it
official. And he is quite a character.
And then using the built-in IK solver that comes with Unity, we're able to solve for the other bones in the chain. So,
Amir's company, Sixense, has a VR controller, or a controller for any 3D interaction with an environment. And you probably have seen it. The first introduction I had to it was with one called the STEM system, and it's basically two controllers you hold in your hands, and you can kind of interact and manipulate with your computer almost like a mouse, but it's in 3D space and it's with both hands, and it is a really awesome system. But Amir's here. Not really. He's probably going to tell us a little bit about STEM today, but he's also going to tell us about what is new and what else is going on with Sixense.
So let's go right into the questions, Amir. Actually, who are you? What is your profession, and where do you reside? Go ahead, Amir.
So, I'm lucky enough to enjoy the weather in Northern California. It's about 70 degrees out there with beautiful sun. I feel bad for the rest of the country almost. Let's make it more formal, and I'll give you a quick intro. So again, my name is Amir Rubin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Sixense. Sixense started back in 2007, and the vision for the company was to make interaction with digital media as intuitive, as immersive as we can. You know, it was prior to the consumer VR. We were doing VR for professional applications. We were doing sport. We were doing simulation in military and medical, and then when Oculus Rift came about and VR headsets became a consumer, the consumers got access to VR, we took all the technology, as you see in this video, and implemented it as a way to deliver the sense of presence in VR. So overall, as a company, it's really not about controllers. It's not about hardware or software. It's about delivering an experience where you are completely immersed in a virtual space. And it took us about 7 years, but today, with the STEM and with our Sixense VR SDK, we are able to deliver an experience that's basically only possible to date in military and professional applications at millions of dollars of cost.
You know, that's one of the reasons that I got involved in this, is that you know, I'd gotten the Oculus Rift DK1 set, but thought, you know, there's got to be more to this, and then I bought a used Razer Hydra on Amazon. Sadly, sometimes when you buy used things, they don't always work right, so I only had really one good controller, so I just considered myself to be somewhat disabled in the VR world. But that just said, wow, this is really neat. You know, the problem with the Razer Hydra at the time is that it was all tethered. Your hand grips were tethered, so everything was confined to the laptop or the PC, which is still the case with the DK2, but I'm seeing some huge potential here, because one of the important things with the STEM system is that all the sensors are untethered or remote. And we had an opportunity, well, when you relaunched this, I think in September of 2013, if I remember correctly, but we also had an opportunity to see it in somewhat limited action, or maybe it was still the Hydra at the point, at a 3D printing conference in
San
where was
Jose.
it? San Jose,
Yeah.
about the same time frame in 2013. And I want to say the gentleman's name was Paul, but he had something to do with the MakeVR software at the time. And we
Yeah.
kind of discussed it, and he was talking about how there's going to be something new coming along called STEM, but really couldn't tell me anything. And then I think you launched your Kickstarter, and I was hooked immediately from day one, because frankly, I'm a big VR fan, have been a video game technology person for many years, did a little bit of game design myself. So, I was really excited about immersing oneself even more. And, I think that day's coming soon. But that's getting past myself. So, as mentioned, you launched this Kickstarter in STEM. It was extremely popular. I don't know what you actually made out of it, but obviously there was a lot of interest in it. And one of the things that caught my attention, as I just mentioned, is that these are remote units, and they are attached to your body. So could you kind of go in through a little bit of theory without giving away, I guess, the whole kit and caboodle of what this thing works? Because then I'll run back to my shop and make one myself. No, just kidding. But give us a little bit of the background technically of how this thing works. I'm assuming that what's that one audio or the musical instrument that when you put your hand in it, you modify the sound? What's the name of that? I can't remember now. Somehow I got a feeling that this is something similar. I'm sorry, say it again?
I think it's called the Therman.
The Therman. So that's what comes to my mind, is that you're doing something similar to that here, however, obviously much more precise. So I'll give you the floor and kind of give us a little bit of the background of how this thing works.
Okay, so let's go a little technical now. It starts from our military background. Our VP of engineering his name is Oded Zur. Oded has been developing tracking systems for medical and military applications for many years. There's a company in Israel called Elbit. Elbit is a company that makes the head-mounted displays for about 90% of all fighter jet pilots. It's a headset, very sophisticated, obviously, for F-15s, F-16s, 18, F-22s, and now all the way to current generations. Bottom line is, it's a $350,000 helmet. Obviously, it's not a retail product. We looked into where is this experience relevant to consumer experiences that we believe that everyone would want to enjoy, and spend the time over the past 7 years, really 6.5 years now in development, and developed what we consider to be a full body tracking platform, including a tracking technology that is based on electromagnetics tracking, combined with we call it fusion with IMU. The IMU is a gyro accelerometer that works together with our electromagnetics to provide a plug-and-play tracking system, which again means does not require calibration, automatically adjusts. We have what we call dynamic mapping of any environment to enable precision of 1 millimeter position and 1 degree of orientation for 5 tracked points on the body. You can place it anywhere you want. We recommend it 1 on each leg, 1 on each hand, and 1 on the head. And we provide you with our Sixense VR SDK, a reverse kinematic platform that enables you to bring yourself very easily into the environment. So, going back to 2009, like you see in the John Carmack back in the video, John Carmack was presented our first wireless controllers that we created then. The latency then was too much, and for VR it wasn't appropriate, and even for gaming it wasn't good enough. The latency was over 25 milliseconds. So we felt, let's go back, work on the latency, reduce latency, and in parallel to that, allow Razer as part of our partner network, allow Razer to move ahead and bring the Razer Hydra as a wired device. Razer released the Hydra in 2011, and we continued working on our wireless. In 2013, we did our Kickstarter where we announced the stem with the 5 fully tracked system, wireless system, but again, it is reporting its position and orientation, as we refer to it as P&O, every 4.2 milliseconds in full synchronization of 5 points. It's never been done before. It's a proprietary protocol that we have developed with the help of Nordic semiconductors, out of one of the most known and successful Bluetooth semiconductor company. They've been working with us for the last 6 years on developing this ability, and today we are basically having a system that enables anyone to bring themselves into a virtual reality experience without actually seeing any delays whatsoever, and therefore there's no motion sickness. There's a full immersion to the point where within 5 seconds of putting the headset on your head, you are fully transformed to become, you really believe that you are a Jedi, or you are, in a shooting range, or, in many other applications, playing ping pong or playing tennis, or many other applications we have, all the way to shopping in a shoe shop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, if I could interject for a moment. As mentioned, I have the Hydra system, and that was one of the things that I noticed immediately, is that by using these, you just added yourself another level of immersion. It's one thing to be a spectator, it's another to participate. And a standard controller or a mouse doesn't provide the same thing. When you actually see your hand move in the VR world, that is an experience. And as I said, I was very excited to move forward with the STEM system. And in this case, I've got an image up here on my screen that I'll put up. Is this the final product? Because one of the things that is following the Kickstarter over the last year, some people, I wouldn't say complain, have noticed that maybe the units here have gotten a little larger. What do you want to call it? The attachments to the body besides the 2 controllers. And also, one of the concerns was that the STEM remote units that would go on different joints of the body would also attach to the hand grips, giving you 5. And in the design that you have now, you have 2 hand controllers and 3 units. So can you kind of explain the reason why you made a shift, maybe why it's a little bit larger at this point?
Yeah, to explain it, I need to go quickly into our business philosophy. Our business philosophy is that rather than us creating and dominating or trying to dominate the VR market with our own branded product and trying to create our own exclusive console closed platform, we are going completely in 180 the other way. We are taking the STEM system. We created what you see here and what we made available for the Kickstarter community, and what we are making available for anyone right now that wants to develop for the STEM. We are taking it, providing it as a dev kit, but then we are taking it and enabling it as a reference design to any hardware manufacturer around the world, from Razer to Valve to Samsung, to even Oculus, and then any other OEM of hardware, and again, of course, companies on the software side, developers that wants to develop applications. But what's most important is that we are making the accessibility to all hardware, all HMD manufacturers, like Gear VR today with Samsung, they do not have position tracking for the Gear VR. And without position tracking, you do not have VR. There's no virtual reality without head tracking. Orientation tracking is not good enough. Without position tracking, you get sick, even if you are a professional like myself. And I've been doing it for over 20 years. So what we do is we provide our technology to all hardware manufacturers so they can integrate it, deliver both head tracking at the highest level and, again, hand tracking with controllers, or you just take the PEX and you attach it to your hand. Again, the STEM system in the current configuration is a developer kit. Now, to be clear, it's, again, for hardware developers and software developers. So when you get your STEM and you open the controllers, or you open what we call the PEC, which is the smaller box, the three of them that you see in the front, what you see there is that we enable hardware developers to attach all sorts of debug tools that allow them to upload different firmware on the DSP, on the MCU, play around, adjust it to their own designs. Because again, for us, and that's the most important thing, is to enable, just like a mouse has been for a PC as a 2D motion controller, we want the STEM in different configuration. Like a mouse comes in thousands of different industrial designs, we want the STEM to become the standard input device in many different hands of many different brands, many different looking input devices. But again, we want to provide this position orientation capabilities, this motion tracking in 3 dimensions to any hardware manufacturer in the world. So software developers have the benefit to develop to one platform.
Wow. That's really cool.
So,
to
understand correctly, the images that I see here are the developer package, and one of the reasons for the increase in size is because, as you said, this gives the developer the opportunity to make their own hacks or modifications very easily. So if I understand correctly, the actual system that will be available to the consumer will vary dependent upon the OEM, you're the OEM, but the end manufacturer, let's say Samsung or Oculus. Is that what I understand?
So hopefully that's exactly what's going to happen. Every hardware company that wants to enable head tracking will take the technology that is sitting in one of these specs that currently we basically put it on your head, as attached to the DK2 or attached to Gear VR. It will be integrated inside, and you will have position tracking for the head. Again, the most important thing to understand here is that it's designed for dev kit. What we call STEM VR will perform exactly the same. It's going to come probably sometime next year, but the important thing is it will perform exactly the same from the experience perspective. It will enable you the same exact experience as the STEM system. But again, the STEM system that you see here is designed with a lot of additional features. You got this fancy docking station. You have capabilities that for the consumer market it's less essential.
Yeah, and to reiterate, this docking station allows you to charge each of these units independently, so that because they are wireless, they have to have rechargeable batteries. So your station does that as well. Correct, Amir?
Exactly right.
Okay. One of the things, and I really want to go back and stress this, it was a concern in the Kickstarter, but you immediately came out with an option, which I bought into, to buy extra stems for a reduced cost. So I really commend you for that. And I have purchased it, but then I'm wondering if this is the station, how would I charge those? But I guess we'll cross that when it arrives. But I liken this to the DK2 by Oculus. It was considered a developer kit, but really finished in its look. So I'm assuming that to be the case here. So moving on to one other item that
let me just give you the answer.
Sure.
Let me give you, Michael. Let me give you the answer. You see the two USB ports on the front, on the right side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those two USB ports will allow you to charge the additional 2 packs.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, that answered that question. So one of the other things that came up in the last year is that one of the reasons there has been a delay, because I'm assuming I don't have the Kickstarter up here in front of me, it was supposed to be, close to 6 to 8 months ago that you were going to have a product out, but you've had some hardware issues, and I don't really remember the exact details of it, which is one of the reasons for the delay. But, like many Kickstarters, there are always delays. Could you kind of elaborate a little bit where you were finding some issues with this? With the Hydra system, you had, since it was tethered, you could, I guess, define its actual location all the time. I mean, you were limited based upon the tethered cable. But with this system, obviously, it's a lot more elaborate. And I'm assuming because of that, that created some issues for you. Could you kind of elaborate on that?
Definitely. First of all, I appreciate that you've been tracking the communication we had, and I can only ask you to continue communicating to the community the fact that we are, almost as soon as we know of any information that is going to help our community to have better transparency into where we are and how we are advancing with the delivery of the stem, we are doing anything we can to communicate it as soon as we have, responsible information to communicate it that will help the community rather than confuse. But go back to your question. We had, I don't know where to start even with the different challenges that we faced. The biggest challenge we had is the ability to maintain 5 tracked devices communicating at 240 hertz, which means communicating within the same window of between 4 to 6 milliseconds back to the host, and doing it using Bluetooth, using our protocol. That is a huge challenge, and it's never been done before. There was never any consumer electronic device that was able to communicate at such a high speed, and we had to solve that problem. That took a long time, but again, that started a long list of hardware requirement that when we completed to meet that part of the overall spec, then we ended up with typical issues of sensitivities to ESD. Then we have to, pass government regulation, meet ESD, so electrostatic will not blow up the system. Then we had to move from there and realized that we have, just to give you an idea, every controller and every pack has 2 different processors in them, a DSP and an MCU. Mm-hmm. Each one of them runs very specific firmware. The firmware that is running on it is very unique and proprietary and complex. Now, the base is running 6 different MCUs, 6 different processors that communicates. One MCU run itself, and one MCU is managing the communication with the controller and the pack. Now, we realized that unless we develop a remote update capability of all the firmware on all those MCU with a very, very high level of reliability, we will face a unique situation where if there's any problem in the firmware, we will have to ask units to be shipped back to us, do the necessary updates, and then send it back. to the people that own it. That became after we tested it, that became an impossible situation. We realized that if we do that, it will be a nightmare for the consumer, a nightmare for the developer, and a nightmare for us. So we went on a very complicated process. And again, I'll tell you why it's complicated. The process was we had to develop the capability of remote update of the firmware. And again, just to be clear, it's not like a new SDK for your computer or even for your phone. It is every single MCU and DSP needs to be able to be updated. Now, if anything goes wrong in the update, it's referred to, the term that is being used is we brick that controller, we brick that system. There is no way to bring it back unless we take it back here. It has to go back to and be completely opened, and then we have to hope that the damage is not final. But the point is, we've been debugging it for the past 9 months. And since last month, when we started shipping the first prototypes, we are working very closely with the guys and the people that worked with us that ordered those prototypes, to the extent of those of them joining our beta, joining and signing in to our bug tracking system. And there were a few times that we had to take their systems and replace. We basically give them a new system, take their system, upgrade their system, and only lately, we start shipping it across a kind of the state line to get some experience with independent. Usually, it's technology experts that can actually handle some debugging and helping us understand problems. But now, I believe our engineering group will tell you that we are very, very close to clear it to the point that we'll start shipping it to everyone.
Okay, so again, for me to be clear on this, so essentially what you're saying is that you've tried to make the experience for the end user as, what would you say, easy as possible, trouble-free, and currently, because of the complexity, that wasn't the case. So you've worked very hard, and you didn't want to present a product out there that would be a burden to the user. Is that what I understood?
Yeah, exactly. If you think about Steam, think about Valve and what they've done with Steam, which obviously we are not Valve. We don't have the kind of resources or the size or the years of experience that they have. But think about how much work they've done with Steam to help you as a Steam user to optimize the experience for you and make it kind of transparent for you. For us, it's all about making the user experience such that they can enjoy the virtual reality world, the interaction for whatever purpose, whether it's entertainment, education, shopping, or building in MakeVR. We don't want them to get frustrated with what the PC is without Steam. Steam is known, and what I love about Steam, and I've been a Steam user for many years now, is really the fact that they look at your system, and without you even knowing, they take care of it. They make sure it's optimized to the best of their ability, remotely optimize your system so it works. So when you reach out and download the game and you play the game, it's optimized to perform on it. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you going through the length that you did to make it more understandable. It really helps me, and I'm assuming that if we have any audience members who are part of the Kickstarter, it really helps to understand. And being an engineer and a software developer myself, I know nothing ever seems to go the way you want it, and it does normally take twice as long. And so I really appreciate your answer there. On that note, being a developer, and I thought I identified this in my Kickstarter, but how does one go about it? I noticed that at least your website, unless it's changed, there is no SDK that you can download at this time. You did say that you are working with some developers, but I'm assuming it's close to home, and you've just reached out to people outside of that. So if you are a developer, how can you go about signing up? Because, as you're aware of, the STEM or any VR system isn't any good unless the content is there. So how do you plan to support that in the future?
So that's a very important question. And number one, there is an SDK available on our developer site. But what you are right about, it's not the STEM SDK. It is the Hydra SDK. So what I'm saying is that the Hydra SDK is completely backward compatible.
Oh.
So if you go, exactly, that's a key component. When we developed the SDK, we made sure that the Hydra SDK is fully supported. Any application developed with a Hydra will be plug and play. There's no work necessary whatsoever to do. And
so people that are developing now, they can get started. What you're saying is that opens up a whole they don't need to wait for the STEM system. They can if they already have a Hydra, they can start developing and then transition over to the stem cell when they get their package.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And especially for DK2, because DK2 already comes with a head tracker, although it's not a head tracker, a 360 head tracker like Crescent Bay is going to give you or the stems give you, but it does allow you to have your hands in the experience where your head is already tracked with the DK2. So for that purpose, we enabled the Hydra to be fully updated. So when you have the STEM SDK released, and it's going to be released before GDC, especially at least at the beta level, it will be available, but it's going to be fully operational to develop in, and you'll be able still to develop with a Hydra when you're sitting and waiting for a little longer to get as we will ship it with the Kickstarter order line.
That's excellent. And from what I see here, if you go to my screen, which we're at right now, you support it with a Unity plugin, a Unreal 4 plugin, and these are controlled through your API, which is C and C++. Is that what I understand correctly?
Correct.
Good. Excellent. And I think I've already signed up for the Hydra, but I'll make sure I go back and do that. And on that note, how do I get my Hydra repaired? Do I have to go back through, I can't even remember their name now, or can I send it to you?
No, you don't have to go to Razer. You just come to us, send us an email to dev, especially developers. We are very, very close to developers. Just to be clear, there's over 15,700 downloads of the SDK from our site. And by the way, you can also find it on the tool tab on Steam. You can go to Valve on Steam.
That's right.
You can download it from Steam, but you can go here to the Sixense core API. You can download from here. But the important thing for all of us is that please reach out to us if you have a Hydra with a problem. We have a group here that's their job, is work with you. If necessary, you can send it to us. We'll most likely be able to solve it. If we don't, we will tell you what it's going to take from us to do it. If it's actual, if my engineers have to actually take a look at it and fix it, I can tell you, in most cases, we were always able to fix. We've been working with Cloudhead, Danny on the Gallery 6 Elements. He's been working with the Hydra forever, and we've already fixed, I think, at least 5 or 6 times their Hydras. Again, unfortunately, the main problem with the Hydra usually is the trigger and the bumper and some of the buttons. It's usually not the problem. Usually is not the tracking, or the cable breaks and loses contact. But we'll definitely fix it if you can send it to us or contact our support.
Yeah, I'll
They'll help you
contact
really.
first and let's pinpoint the actual problem. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that. You know, I just kind of abandoned it a little bit, just hoping the stem would be here. But now that I know that I can develop on both, I would like to move forward with that.
That's pretty
One other
awesome.
question, if I want, you did mention the Samsung Gear VR, and what attracts a lot of people to that, one, they're working with Oculus, but the other thing is that when you work with the Samsung Gear VR, you don't have any cables. It is completely contained. And I see the awesome relationship if you can provide STEM compatibility with that, because then you're completely independent of your environment. And that means you have multiple joint location as well as full head turning capability. And you just kind of alluded that you may be working with Samsung. Did I understand that correctly?
So we are very, very focused on mobile VR. And the main reason is that it provides the developer community a way to monetize all their hard blood, sweat, and tears invested in VR development. And it's very simple. You know, Gear VR is available to purchase right now at $200, and you know it's running on an off-the-shelf phone. You know, with the Note 4. So that's another thing that we've done. Again, you know, we feel that it's an important thing for the community. So we added it really to our SDK and showed it, announced it and presented it in the Samsung Developer Conference, you know, late last year. And now every single stem that comes out will fully support Gear VR, and you'll be able to develop with the stem for the Gear VR. Now we are very hopeful that Samsung will take on our reference design and adapt it and use it in their next Gear VR that will hopefully have position tracking for the head. There's no announcement I can make to you, but I can only tell you that we offer our technology. We offered it to them, and we offered it to Oculus, and we offered it to Valve, and we hope that all of them are going to use it. We are making it very, very inexpensive for everybody to take it on. We spent over $10 million, just to be clear. Over $10 million was spent to develop the stem over the years. It started all the way back in 2008.
So what I'd like to do is one of the better, more recent videos was done by The Verge. So I'm going to go ahead and play that so that people get an opportunity to see this.
Okay.
Through this audio. And I like it because she fully explains the whole process, and it is one of the more recent examples. So I actually didn't, darn it, restart. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Addie from The Verge at CES, and I am a Jedi right now. I'm trying out the STEM motion controller from Sixense. That's the company behind the Razer Hydra, and this is a little bit similar in that it's a motion controller, but what it does is have a base station back here that sends out an electromagnetic field. Using that, I've got one tracker here on my head, and I'm carrying two of them, sort of like guns, and they can sense their position. So unlike something like Leap Motion, which is using a camera to tell where your hands are and just sort of sensing them and trying to figure it out, this actually has hardware trackers that genuinely kind of make it a lot more accurate and
So
also
Amir,
give
ask,
you a much
where
wider
is the
field of
base
motion.
station at?
This
Is it
was
behind her?
probably one of the best things I've done at CES. I've also gone
So
shoe
even though
shopping,
she's
which
looking
was fun,
forward, it's still
in a
keeping
robot body.
controls or the identification of where they're at in space, even though it's behind her.
Yeah, you know, it's up to the developer to decide how
This time, throw it to her feet.
you know.
Let go just a little. That's just that throwing motion. There you go. So now they're on.
My God, I just threw shoes onto a mannequin.
No, the base station allows you to have an 18 feet play zone
Surprisingly versatile.
in diameter,
That's
so you can
phenomenal.
place it anywhere you want and decide what orientation you want to have the
5
player.
times more buttons here than I'm using. But this is really, really a lot of fun. So the
I
STEM
can't
system
wait
was
to
funded
get my
on
hands
Kickstarter,
on
and
this
it's
game.
supposed to be shipping out.
Play
I
this.
can't wait to do my next show
It's also
with
available
these on our
pre-order
head.
at $880.
We'll be sitting there and talking to one another.
Okay.
I mean, obviously the opportunities are.
You know, if you're coming to
Absolutely.
GDC, you know, we can spend some time together. We have some few new demos coming, and we also will be able to show some other interesting things that that we are doing.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to figure out how to get up there. And it's in San Francisco again. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny is that, what was it, 2009, I actually had a booth at GDC. I was doing a documentary on video gaming addiction and actually had a booth, but man, was that expensive. Had a big
It is
50-foot
expensive,
poster. Yeah. But no, I'll see what I can do. I think that would be exciting. I think that fits in the 3D realm, doesn't it, Chris?
I think so. Anything, we are all things 3D.
That's
Exactly.
right. Okay, one other question, and we've kind of run out of time, and maybe we can leave that for another session. You've got another product that's coming out called MakeVR, and this is what kind of attracted my attention from day one, because it is a virtual world 3D designer or modeler. And let me see if I can go back to your products where you talk about it. Where are we at? Come on. There we go.
Yeah, you know, MakeVR is what we refer to as a killer app for VR, and it's really about enabling anyone to be able to create anything they want in a 3D world, and not only doing so by an intuitive, you know, using the stem, but also being able to do it with anyone they want to. So it's allowing up to 5 users to participate in building a spaceship or anything else that you want together. That's clearly, for us, it's been an unbelievable goal to enable. But the last piece that is important to discuss, it's not only that you can create this 3D worlds and then potentially being able to apply physics and play with it. You will be able to take anything you created and then export it into any 3D printing service or printer. We're already working with 6 different printing companies. We're working with Shapeways, and the key is enable anybody to create whatever they want.
Well, something that's new from the time that I talked about it a year ago is this collaborative. You set up to 5 people. Can you imagine? Let's look at it from a different perspective. As you probably, if you've been following me, I have talked about how 3D can be used in medical and how it is being used. What is the potential here to be able to do something like this, and not necessarily modify, but I guess you could, but to look at 3D tangible model, or not tangible, virtual models of a person's anatomy or bone structure with other physicians. They put on their VR goggles and the STEM system and can interact by moving the object amongst the physicians, and they can literally kind of walk around it and examine it. I see some huge potential there. You know, I've noticed MakeVR has more of a educational element to it, but I can see it being used in other areas as well. So how close are we to getting this done?
So, number one, you're very close, and I can tell you that we already have developers that are using the stem and getting ready for this, using the Hydra and getting ready for the stem with stroke rehabilitation. They are using it for training doctors to become surgeons, and everything you're saying is right, including the fact that MakeVR has got more of what you refer to as educational value. But I can tell you more than that. Making education entertaining, making it more engaging, making the experience, you know, such that you really want to go back to it, not just because you need to learn, is, I believe, a requirement to make it so, you know, our next generation makers are going to be just more capable. I can tell you we're using right now Paul Melaniak, which is the head of development for MakeVR.
And that's who we spoke to, and he actually was on one of our shows. So
exactly. So he, being one of the pioneers of VR, he is right now. We are still developing MakeVR. We're taking a little longer time because we are waiting for the stem to be launched, so we don't have to sell the stem with MakeVR. So MakeVR can be inexpensive, and anybody can get it in a way where it really does not require selling hardware with the software. But going back to Paul, right now I'll give you a scoop, if I may, something nobody yet know.
Wow.
We are right now developing with under Paul's management, and I will call to hopefully for you to keep an eye, and maybe we'll have you do a story about it. Developing an educational application specifically teaching kids about how the brain works. So you look at MakeVR and you think about, you reach into the environment and you can basically, by taking the different parts of the brain as a puzzle, you are learning what each part of the brain, what functionality it's responsible. So it's called Cure Fred, and you have a character that is basically, behave according to the missing part of his brain, and you need to basically assemble it correctly to keep him healthy. And that's designed for kids, for education. It's funded by the government, and I cannot only tell you the reaction to this is unbelievable.
I can imagine.
Can't wait to check this out. So
Yeah.
where are you going to be demoing that at next? Or where can we expect to see it?
GDC.
Well, I
That's
guess we're
one of
going
the
to have
demos
to
in
get
GDC.
going. And I've got so many things. We're going up to Autodesk at the end of February as well. We were invited up there, so I guess I got to get my what do you call it? My press badges for GDC this time around. So Amir,
I'm also going to be Michael, and we're going to be at South by Southwest.
oh,
So if you want to
Okay.
come down and spend some time with us in Austin, it's a beautiful event, and I'm sitting on a panel there talking about VR, and we're going to have all the demos.
Awesome.
well, I don't
Awesome.
know if I'll be able to make it, but I know that some of our guests and our audience will be able to do that. So I'm hoping that they can come out there and talk with you. So one other question. Being a developer and also having a show, I'm wondering what it would take to be able to get an early version of the STEM, or one so that I can interact with it and talk about it. Maybe think about that and see what we can do there. And as I said, I've been following you for some time. Obviously, I've been disappointed in some areas, but I'm still behind you. I think this is an excellent direction. I really appreciate you, Amir, for coming on and talking with us and being straightforward about some of the troubles you've had. And hopefully, if some of the Kickstarter are watching this, they can see that you are really behind it and really moving forward with it. And I really appreciate your time, Amir.
So let me just quickly let you know and saying to be said about the media as a whole. We look at the media as the voice of the community, especially at your level. I'm not talking about Wall Street Journal or New York Times. We're talking about the one like you that are both developers. You're down with us, working your way, helping build the VR medium, helping build this community, and make VR, what we believe it needs to be, with the kind of support that we need to get from you. I can tell you this much. Number one responsibility we have is for the Kickstarter community. They supported us from day one, and when I say we are focused on the community, is we must make sure that the product we ship them is enable them to enjoy it rather than feel as they are joining the R&D process. They will and expect you to, as soon as I can get you your unit, to be able to provide us feedback and be patient when we provide you solutions. We still don't expect everything to be perfect, but specifically for you, I can tell you regarding as a media person, not as a developer, we will have, right after we finish shipping all the prototypes, and we have over 25 prototypes to ship to the Kickstarter community. The moment we are done with the prototypes, and you can imagine every prototype, by the way, you should keep it in mind, the plastics on the prototype is 3D printed at Shapeways. It's not yet injection. It's all Shapeway 3D printed. But what we're doing, we're using some of these prototypes for evaluation with the media. We will provide it at CES. We provided it for a whole day, for almost a whole day. It was like, I think 4 hours, 5 hours for The Verge. So The Verge was able to evaluate it. That's how we won the best VR product. They spent, I think, over 30 of their people went through it. Now we are going the same thing, spending time. We provide it on a kind of in a day for you to run an evaluation, play with it, mess around, get your own impressions, and then, same thing with Tom Hardware. We spent some time with them at CES, let them come as many times they wanted to do their analysis, and then again, we were lucky enough for them to believe that this is the best experience in VR that they've seen at CES. So we will be more than happy to do the same. I'll put you together with Steve Henstad. Steve Henstad is our head of community, developer community.
We've actually talked on a couple occasions through emails, so I think he's the one that helped set this up.
So he will set it up. He will get you the system. We'll ship it to you. We'll have you all set up, and we'll leave it with you for as long as possible until we'll ask you to send it to the next person. Because again, remember, the only thing I'm asking you is that it's not about Sixense and it's not about the STEM. It's about VR. Mm-hmm. As much as we can communicate to not only to the developer community but also to the consumers that VR is there to make their life better. And when I say make their life better, I'm not only talking about more fun by entertaining them with better games. I'm talking about enable education anywhere in the world from the best experts, is what the web, what the internet promised us, but VR online will deliver. I'll get the best of the best experts with me in VR, teaching me and anybody in Africa and anybody in South America and anybody in Eastern Europe at the same time, at the same level of quality. Same thing to be said about the level of care that you can do, rehabilitation, PTSD, autism. We are working now with thousands of developers that are coming with amazing, amazing solutions that's going to make basically reality so much better.
It's a beautiful thing, Amir.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on our program and giving us an update and telling us kind of blowing our minds with some of this info. So it's been a real pleasure to have you on our show.
Yeah, and look forward to receiving it.
Anytime you guys want, let us know. We'll bring you in. Next time you want to talk, you can talk to a few, our creative director Danny, that does a lot of the interviews. He's going to talk to you about experience if you want to talk, and about the SDK, and about what we are releasing. He's going to be a great guy for you to have on a show if you want.
We will. We'll make him one of our guest crashers.
Okay, my friends. Thank you so much, guys.
Have a great day.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you again, Amir.
Bye, man.
All right, Chris, sign us off.
All right. Well, we'll see you. We'll see you later on this week. We've got some other episodes coming up this week and later today, and we will see you on the next episode of All Things 3D.
Yep. And as Chris mentioned, we actually have. Let's see. I want to say J.P. McHugh, who did this huge Autodesk thing with this tour around the country in his RV, and we have him coming up at 11:30 if I remember correctly, Pacific Standard Time. So if you got nothing better to do, or actually have something better to do, like stay with us, we'll see you again at 11:30.
All right.
Bye.
See you then.